Hey everybody, this is Dark Garza, and we're back with another video, and this isn't going to be an update. I kind of want to do something a little different, kind of test it out. It is going to need a lot more effort in the future, definitely going to have to start learning how to video edit it, sound edit, do a lot of other things, but what I want to start doing is doing a few kind of talking videos and teaching videos between doing all the content updates and tutorials and trying to show how to code and everything else. Now, what I want to do is I was talking to a few other people about this a year ago, and kind of off and on I do talk to people about this, but I don't want to just make videos where we're purely talking about how to implement code, how to go about using some kind of tool, software, whatever, because those things are cool, but they actually don't teach you a huge amount about how to be a developer, how to make mods, and everything else. There are things that are more important to learn because they change the way you look at the code, they change the way you think about things, they change the way you go about doing everything you do. And this has kind of been sparked up again, because I almost completely forgot about this. I have tons of video scripts actually written for this, that once we start getting the ball rolling, and I start getting in a little bit better habit about making videos daily, and actually speaking pretty well, because sometimes I slur my words if you haven't noticed. I have a very slight speech problem. But I started doing these mod tips of the day. Now, Mick Jetty was the first person to start doing these. He started giving tips of the day. I also suggested that he start using a hashtag, which is the reason why if you now click the hashtag, you actually will start to see a couple people actually start to give out mod tips a day, but there's not that many. If you are a developer and you do want to give out tips a day, I highly recommend starting to do this, because if we as a community can build up the knowledge that the community has available to them, we will start to see better mods, better developers, and a better community overall, which is my inspiration for kind of doing things like actually teaching and helping other developers out. Is I really do believe in the prospect that I can help people and people can help each other, and through that the community can grow and expand and get better over time. Now, I've done a couple of these tips a day, and what I want to do with them is not just do the tip of the day on Twitter and call it that, because that's cool. I'm kind of just doing this on Twitter because it's nice. It's something I can do, help a few people out, because I don't really have that many followers. I don't have a lot of followers on YouTube either, but I feel that these tips do need a little bit more explaining. So we're going to start with like one at a time, and we're going to make a video. Hopefully I'll be able to do this daily, do a video per day talking about the topic, hopefully shortly after I even make the tweet, when I'm actually been inspired to do this. I actually do have a list of these actually on my Google Drive, and I will be expanding this list, and I'll be posting them every single day. And I keep the list very short, as you notice. I actually just do like a single thing, and then I go into detail after it, actually talking about it. So we're going to talk about the first tweet I did. So take your time and never rush. This is a very important thing, and I don't think it's actually taught enough anymore in schools or anywhere else. People are just kind of taught, do your work, do it as fast as possible with the best amount of quality you possibly can, and to actually get done so you have free time or do whatever and can enjoy life. But there is a beauty about taking your time and not rushing with something. It's something that you actually have to learn from people who actually have done trade work in their life. Now, for those who don't know a lot about me, I actually grew up in a family of people who actually do trade work type stuff. My father did HVAC work, sheet metal, that kind of stuff. My grandfather was a really class A machinist. He could make anything you can possibly imagine with his hands. I have an uncle who does plumbing and everything else. So people who work with their hands for a living. I grew up in that type of lifestyle and really did enjoy it. I actually still to this day enjoy working with my hands and making things. It was one of the original reasons why I went and learned electronics, to actually do that, because I was hoping to become an electrician or a technician or something. Eventually I did get into engineering. I was pressured into it because my father kind of wanted me to be an engineer, and that's a whole story by itself, and we're not going to go into that. But what you will learn from talking about people in trade is that they tell you to take your time. It is a very important thing to take your time to do things, not because you'll make mistakes, not because you'll do a sloppy job, but there's a enjoyment to taking your time to work on something and sit there and learn and enjoy the process. And then of course you get the second half, which is not the rush, because you will make mistakes, you will waste your time, and you will get frustrated. And it's important to note that making a mistake is not a bad thing. When you make a mistake, it's okay. You learn from the mistake, you learn not to do it again, and you move on. It's like the first time you'll ever swing a hammer, you're more than likely to hit your thumb, and that's fine. You didn't fail, you learned to not hit your thumb. And you'll learn to do that over and over again until you learn to do it the right way. And if you actually run into somebody who will actually teach you properly, they won't yell at you when you make a mistake. They'll say, okay, you made a mistake, let's move on, and you learn not to do it again. When I got my first job doing electronics, I got taught by a guy who had a master's in engineering who was doing the job I was doing simply because he actually liked the work and didn't like the work of being an engineer. And he taught me to slow down and take your time soldering every single chip. And because I did that, I can master flow surface mounted chips like they're nothing. I don't even need any type of flux or anything. I can stick the chip on there and boom, be done, and flow it. And he taught me that through taking my time and not rushing. And the first 2 times I failed at it, he's like, don't worry about it. You'll learn again to do it a little bit better. And he taught me how to do things like check for mistakes, how to look for problems, how to resolve the problems. It's one of the biggest things that some people don't even learn from their mistakes is how to fix your mistakes. So the first time I broke the chip, of course, I thought I'd ruined a board. These boards were like $1,000. So he's like, oh no, I was gonna lose a paycheck or something. He's like, no. He went and grabbed his iron and really quickly buzzed the chip and pulled it off and put it back on. I didn't know that was something you could do. I thought once you got a chip on there and you had messed it up really bad, you were done. There was no way to recover because, of course, these chips had like 120 pens on them. So I was like, there's no way you're getting that back off. But he showed me how to get it off. He showed me not only one way, but several ways to get these chips off and recover the boards and not to damage them. First few times I actually did permanently damage a board, he told me how not to do that again, how to show me how to do all this stuff. And that's one of those things where if you take your time, you'll learn this stuff. Because you'll find things, you'll learn to learn the problem, understand the problem, and adapt to the problem. And you'll learn something new, of course, and you'll be able to apply those knowledges to everything else. So every single time I learned something, I learned to apply that knowledge. There was a few times I just sat there with microchips, put them on the board and took them off just so I can learn how to do that better and more efficiently and everything else. I've applied this same knowledge to pretty much everything I do, and it's one of the reasons why I actually learn code at a very fast rate and I adapt to problems really quickly. If somebody teaches me something or talks about some other methodology, I will eventually apply it in some way or another, even if this is not the best method in the world. That's another thing that we'll probably do with another one of these videos is talk about is that there's 1,000 ways to do code and not a single one of them is considered the best way to actually do it, etc., etc. But getting into a whole other topic with that and everything else. One of the also another important things about taking your time is the work you're doing will always be there when you get back. It doesn't matter what you're doing, unless you're doing something like being a doctor or something, then of course you do need to actually be able to do your work in a decent amount of time. But it's like if you're mowing a lawn and you get tired or something, or need to go get some water or something, you go do that because the lawn will be there in a few minutes. You're taking out the trash or you're watching TV or something else. You take time when you need it and to actually enjoy life and do what's important. There's certain things that need to be done beforehand. If you're making mods as a hobby and doing it for fun, you kind of need to make sure you get other things done. You need to make sure you sleep, that you eat. These are things that I've actually forgotten to do and I've had to learn many, many times. There's times I will tell the story where I stayed awake for 12 days straight. People are impressed by that and want to try to do that because I actually apparently passed some record for sleep and I didn't even realize I did it, and I never recommend ever trying this in your entire life. I still suffer from health consequences for staying awake for 12 days straight, and it's something I made a mistake with doing, is that I didn't sleep, I didn't eat well, I didn't drink well, and I messed up my health. It's one of those things where you need to do what is important because the code will be there when you get back. It doesn't matter what day you write the code, and sometimes it is even better to wait and take your time to write the code later. Say you are frustrated. If you're frustrated and you're coding, you're going to waste your own time and you're going to make a ton of mistakes, and you may not actually learn when you're doing that. So take your time to go do something else, refresh, take a break, go watch your favorite TV show, catch up on YouTube, catch up on your news history, go talk to a buddy, go walk down the street and pick up some groceries or something. Like, do something other, because it makes a huge difference. And then while you're doing those activities, your brain has a chance to relax and rest and may go and figure out what it was that you needed to do to actually get the code working. There's many times I've actually done this myself where I'll be sitting there and not doing anything else, and my brain will start to slowly chew through the work I've been doing and go, you know what, I know another way we could solve that problem. The perfect example of this rather recently, because I have tons of examples of this over my lifetime I could give, but the most recent one was the atomic science heat and thermal system and radiation system. Those were all built with a map, an exterior map of data structure, basically a whole bunch of arrays sitting inside their own objects and stuff. Nothing really complicated. If you actually go look at it, it's not overly detailed work. But the way we were updating the maps back and forth, we were using objects. So what we would do is that every time I set a value, an object was generated that would be dumped into a thread. The thread would then do something with it. This worked okay for the radiation system, has still a few problems with it. But when you hit the thermal system, the way the thermal system spread out was that you stick one block, you edit that heat value, then it spread that heat back around. This is how it works in real life. Heat spreads in all directions, although it does prefer to go towards the lowest heat value possible. So I built the system like this because I was like, it'll work. We'll have some echoing effects in it, but the echoing effects should stabilize and should hit the equilibrium at some point. We won't have any problems. The problem was we were generating so many objects that it ended up overflowing the memory, which then caused the CPU to spike up, which then caused the whole game to stall and basically break. I had to sit for a while, and my brain chewed through dozens and dozens of alternatives until I found one that worked. I realized that time was the solution to the problem. I was trying to rush the system out, get it done as quickly as possible so I get the mod released, because of course we're releasing it pretty soon. And I thought, you know what, we'll just dump everything in real time into the map. Just go, okay, here's heat, here's more heat, here's more heat, because that would have created a really cool system. But what I didn't think about is it didn't matter. Time and the concept of the way the game mechanic works had no effect. So what I could do is go, you know what, we're going to generate this much heat over 1 minute. Why not figure out how much heat's going to be at every given point, how much heat we're going to lose, how much is going to decay, how much is going to radiate off, and then catch the value. Because as long as that machine is running and generating heat, those heat values are going to be identical no matter what. They're not going to change much. They're going to fluctuate by a little bit here and there. They're going to move a little bit there and there, but we can statically cache it and remove time out of the equation. And it actually solved the system. The system now runs with barely any CPU and has only a little bit of memory usage. It actually has almost negligible effects anymore, simply because I took my time and didn't rush it. Anyways, I'll leave you guys here, and I'll probably talk about this subject more another day. And then, of course, I got the other mod tip of the day to work on, and we'll talk about that next.